stage, the digital stage, for the first input lecture.
All right. Thank you, Anna, and thank you, students, everyone attending. This is indeed a great opportunity for all of us, and I'm sure we are going to learn a lot from each other. So it was my responsibility to talk about the materiality of objects. And as I began to ponder more about it, something that touched me was how when you start engaging with material, it actually evokes something, yeah, and even memories, yeah, depending on whatever material you are working with. So that is why I decided that instead of just looking at the physical aspect of the material, but that we try to look at it beyond. And maybe, okay, and I also jumped myself that my background research, just for those of you who are interested, I research on my traditional culture, which is the Awambo people and how it was affected by colonial legacy, as well as symbolism attached. And then I also explore a lot with sustainable fashion. We just had the group of Namibian students presenting for us. And again, something that I'm not sure if you experienced that, but for me, who has been engaging with them, I noticed that there's something different about when you look at an object in a visual, in an image, in comparison to when you have to touch it, yeah? And this is where now I want us to unpack again. So let's begin at the beginning with the object, something physical and material that has proven itself that to be capable of both expressing and eliciting a very particular feeling. Exploring with the object and its materiality, there's different dimension to it, and that's what we're going to see throughout. You're going to look at not just specifically the shape and the size and the weight, but there's also the texture, the roughness, the temperature, the softness, for example. And in that, when you are exploring with that, it is invoking something. So again, it's not enough to just look at the object from the image, but you have to touch it. And so for me, when now I engage with the students' objects before we listen to their story, it evoked other connections, yeah? So it was not just about the material where maybe for some of you, you can connect the material back to your culture or to your country where you've seen similar trees. There's also the production, yeah? And the production, again, is based on, was it industrially made or was it handcraft? Yeah, and then this is where we look at the techniques again. Yesterday when we were discussing with the students, I accidentally perceived one of the techniques as something that was only done in my culture. And so that became another discussion again, where now the students said, no, we in our culture, we also use the same technique, and how for them, they even now add other techniques depending on what they want to symbolize or its function. Yeah, again, so function is something that you will also pick up because of the materiality. Then there is interaction. What is this? Based on the material, it also depends on how people will interact with it. And then there is also the space. How is that? How is the material functional in the space that is going to be used, or even in the ritual or performance? Then there's also the symbolism aspect. And when I'm doing my research, because I'm looking at the beads in my culture, I've also learned that depending on the material that the bead is made from, there's a specific symbolism that is coming out. So even when you are going to explore with the materiality of your object, also try to look at all of the material that has been included. Then there is memory again. One of our students talked about the cup from his grandmother, and also the other male students spoke about the wooden cup, and I could relate to them, although we are from completely different background just based on the material that was used. And then throughout our discussions yesterday, we also realized that some of these objects also are connected to our history and how it all affected it affected everybody, when I thought maybe it's just something to do with my culture. So again, with the material, based on where we're coming from, maybe these are some of the communications that you might experience as you're going to engage with each other. So these are just some of the questions that we can pose. What is the meeting of the inward and outward expressed when you look at your object? How does its form and how is it understood by those entirely other? Yeah. What I love about this project is the fact that we are all coming from different countries, different cultural groups, different background, upbringing. So again, we are going to interpret the material differently. And then how can that which is interior be validated externally? Yeah. How do you know what it is and that it is? Is it true? So non-verbal materiality of the medium, it's the non-verbal materiality of the medium that makes a textile particularly potent vehicle of cultural and artistic expression. Again, you are going to interpret it back to your background. And the beautiful thing again, we are all coming from our different cultures. And even if we have to look at our practices, there's different ways if I have to give you all the same material, you are still going to express it differently because of your cultural background or maybe what it evokes, whether it's related to your culture or symbolism or specific function in your lifestyle. Yeah. Material forms, they complement what can be communicated in language rather than duplicating or reflecting what can be said in words in a material form. And so just to end off, is the material form as objectifications of social relations and gendered identities, often talk silently about, and you will all be able to fill in the gap when it comes to relationships in ways impossible speech or formal discourses. Yeah. The artifact through its silent speech and written presence. Yeah. Speaks what cannot be spoken, writes what cannot be written, and articulates that which remains conceptually separated in social practice. Yeah, so at the end of the day, the non-verbal materiality of the media is thus of central importance. Okay, and that is it. Some of the quotes that I have used are also coming from the specific book that I was engaging with that we engaged with for some of our classes. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation.